welcome back. Time for our next panel, and we're talking exclusively digitally transformation. Let's meet our guests for this panel. First of all, we're joined by Rio Rajapaksa, Global Head of Platform Infrastructure at Bimbo Bakeries USA, and Brian Komisky, Senior Director, Innovation and Trends at the Consumer Technology Association. Brian, Leo, great to see you. How are you?
Great to see you as well. Doing great, thank you.
Good to see you.
Doing well. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, very, very welcome. There we go, Brian. I think your connection is a little bit flaky, but if it does drop out, we'll get you back as soon as we possibly can. The
Perfect.
joys of live broadcasting. Right. Let's start with the importance of digital transformations, because it's almost the foundation of all of our technology conversations today, the importance of digital transformations. Well, Brian, I'll start with you for more of an overview on this first. For you, why do you feel digital transformation is essential for businesses today?
Yeah, of course. I think that was directed to me. I think digital transformation really at its core is about how are you transforming or evolving your enterprise operations as a company to really make sure you're leveraging technology to its most efficient and optimal capabilities, not just for your internal operations, but also for your external operations, where how you're interacting with your customers, whether they be businesses themselves or the average consumer. And we've really seen what's happened over the last decade plus of this digital transformation process really focus in on what we would call digital utility technologies, which are cybersecurity, cloud computing, and AI, which have evolved from being optional upgrades to table stakes. So like water and electricity to operate your building, we view the adoption and the transformation of your business to incorporate cloud, cyber, and AI as really reflective of the modern utility and the modern operation of today's enterprise.
Absolutely, it is critical. Leo, if I can come to you next on that. Two parts for you really about why you feel digital transformation is essential, and give us a little bit of background on your journey there at Bimbo Bakeries USA. What's your digital transformation journey been like?
Sure, thank you. So Bimbo Bakeries, we are the world's largest bakery operating across 35 countries and 20 plus billion annual revenue. So digital transformation means a lot of things to us. One is we totally digitally transformed our infrastructure estate onto cloud infrastructure, our entire ERP, and end-to-end. That means improving and creating new revenue streams, improving our logistics capabilities, improving our sales function, enhancing our customer experiences, increasing operational efficiency of our plants and distribution centers, improving our agility of projects and products, as well as innovation and improving our innovation cycle. So digital transformation means a lot of things to us in bringing the company from the state that we were in to the new state throughout the years of digital transformation.
For me, there's two sides of it here, and Brian and Leo, you touched on it briefly there about the customer experiences. The digital transformation is obviously seen internally within business processes and functions, but as you say there, Brian, the customer experience is also critical there. How do you feel digital transformation has changed things for your customer experience there?
Yeah, of course. And so I think...
Oh, sorry, Brian, if I could start with Leo on that one, then I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
So on that one, for example, Takis, we had one of the famous TikTokers who were performing on TikTok as part of the Takis marketing campaign. And apart from that, for internal use, AI ops and those type of technologies obviously improve the service as well. And then from a demand side, as we do demand prediction when we are fulfilling our products onto the shelves, then the customers will always ensure they have fresh goods when they go to, uh, say, the Walmart or 7-Eleven to buy our products.
That's absolutely crucial. If they're not on the shelf, then that's the, the ultimate wrong customer experience. Brian, if I can come to you next on that, on customer experience.
Yeah, of course. And so, I work at the Consumer Technology Association. We're a not-for-profit trade association representing members of all scales and sizes in the technology industry across North America. So you go from your large hyperscalers like your Amazons and Googles all the way down to startups. But what we're probably more well known for is we're the owners and operators of CES, the most influential technology trade show in the world. And digital transformation has had a major impact in how we shape our show, which delivers to our stakeholders, which are our members and customers, as well as beyond to the media and other business executives that attend the show. And a lot of that was really the inflection point of the pandemic. If you think about it, we had already started to modernize our operations pre-pandemic in terms of how are we using cloud and cybersecurity standards to really make sure that our user data was secure, to make sure that we had a functioning website that really could let people know what their interactivity and what their schedules would be, because it's 140,000 people attend this show in Vegas every year in January. But post-pandemic, we had to evolve yet another time, transform again. And that pivot really led to what we've seen as more of some hybrid capabilities in the show, which include this idea of virtual and video components that we're able to push out to members. How do we engage on a larger platform beyond just the amazing business that gets done in person? That's how digital transformation, where we're adopting it internally for our operations and processes, but it really is a process that helped transition and transform our show to really evolve our platform to really grow further. We're a North American Trade Association, but 40% of our attendance or more every year at the show is global, international. So how do you use these tools to make sure that you're expanding your reach and really making sure that you're delivering still the same product? And I think that's something that we've done quite well here in a major pivot for us.
Yeah, that's an outstanding example about the show and the logistics and so on involved in that, and the transformation, as you say. But let's get on to some of these big challenges. What do you see as the biggest hurdles for implementing digital transformation? Leo, I'll start with you. Some of the biggest hurdles you saw at Bimbo Bakeries and the biggest challenges you see across the industry.
Yeah, so some of the challenges that we've faced and I have seen in the industry, one is legacy systems. Sometimes everybody has mainframes or mid-range machines in there with archaic code, and which is tightly integrated with a number of applications. So it's seemingly difficult to get out of these systems. That is one. And another one is data security and privacy. So as we transform and move into this cloud type of infrastructure, we need to keep in mind, data regulations, and especially for a company like Grupo Bimbo, which is across 35 countries, there's a number of different regulations that we need to follow. For example, since we are in the food industry, we have to look at FSMA in USA, and sometimes for data, it might be GDPR or CCPR in California privacy laws that we're looking into. And apart from that, sometimes what we find is top trends in technology, the skills. There will always be a skill gap and a high cost associated with obtaining the right skills is also sometimes a challenge when it comes for digital transformation. And last but not least, it's a cultural change that comes together with transformation. So that cultural change and the education that is required to improve and transform that culture is key as well.
It is amazing how often a technology problem is actually a human problem at the same time. Brian, if I can come to you on that with the challenges, and particularly as you say, you work with and work alongside, as you say, from some of the very biggest companies on the continent to smaller ones and startups. All will face challenges, very different challenges. What's your take on that?
Yeah, of course. And I'll approach the question from kind of two angles. I've been lucky enough to see it from two perspectives. Before kind of going to the CTA one, prior to my role here, I used to advise on digital transformation policy and consult with the U.S. Coast Guard. That was really primarily a challenge of, well, how do you secure digital transformation in the government, which has its own challenges here in the U.S., where you're talking about regulatory hurdles, you're trying about a major cultural change. Leo is right on when he's mentioning the idea of you have to get people who have worked a certain way to shift their functions. But you think about that, the implications from that perspective have major ramifications where, a port attack on a cybersecurity flow, if you're not updated to the latest cybersecurity and cybersecurity awareness protocols and education gaps, you have an impact that can hit every single industry in the country, whether that's technology or beyond. And we saw that with the NotPetya ransomware attack a few years ago that shut down Maersk, a major shipping container. So how we did that was we would approach it from what are the best vendors from a cybersecurity and cloud standpoint, but also there was the education point, which is how do you make sure that you have the correct and appropriate resources and teams on that front? Those issues and those challenges stem directly even into the not-for-profit trade association world. Internally here as not-for-profit, we have to grapple with the idea of, well, that, as Leo even mentioned before, takes a lot of money to fill that talent at times, or how do you get that skill to have the right cybersecurity people, the right cloud institution individuals? And now with AI, that's another challenge. Cloud, something about 96% of all cloud configurations in the world have some sort of security vulnerability due to human error. So how do you build that into place? And some of that is we're looking at companies across the board of all sizes are trying to get that talent. But again, it's high paid talent. It's a competitive market. You could take every cybersecurity professional in the world, for example, and still only be able to fill 66% of the roles for the most part. That's a 34% talent gap globally. So how do you address that challenge? And this is something why artificial intelligence is really disrupting the digital transformation space, because if cybersecurity offers you security, cloud computing offers any business scalability, you have a productivity gap. What does AI and robotics do in terms of a skills gap, a productivity gap? It gives you simulation of human productivity. And so what we're seeing increasingly from agencies all across, from company levels of all sizes, is how does AI help to fill those gaps from the cybersecurity standpoint, making sure your cloud is running professionally, and then giving you asset and attack surface visibility for your supply chain and other consumer or key customer interaction points. And so really at the end of the day, I think that's the next phase in terms of a challenge is I think companies have gotten a lot smarter in terms of how they use cybersecurity. We've had that for years. Cloud computing we've had for about 16 years or so at the way that we know it with these large infrastructures. We're getting more mature in how we handle that from a transformation perspective, but AI is now just this next layer that's going to require a lot of talent, a lot of education, and of course, a lot of investment to really make sure that it's being leveraged and giving the ROI that companies are looking for.
Let's hold that thought on AI, because I want to come back to that in a second, Brian. I want to just stay with the cultural and the human aspects here that you've both mentioned there. Leo, if I could start with you on this one. How, when you were going through your digital transformations at your organization, how did you maximize the chances of success with the people and the workforce to make sure that planned digital transformations were a success?
Sure. So I believe one of the key factors is we need a communication strategy, and as well as a training and education strategy in place. So the right people needed to be collaborated with at the right time. And on top of that, for the digital cloud transformation, we had a type of a concierge service where we took the different application owners or key stakeholders take them by the hand and walk them through the journey and support them throughout the journey. So the people aspect, it is key to looking at the people aspect to successfully transform. And also, when we are doing some sort of transformation, we need to, as part of planning, we need to take into account availability and capacity of the people who are engaged at different intervals, and ensure that we communicate the required participation from these different parties across the board, as opposed to throwing work over the fence. So it's important to maintain those relationships and grow those relationships along the way. And also, as part of our transformation, we engaged internally through our Viva Engage, formerly Yammer, tools as well, and created the community and created champions, which are more like cross-functional leaders who would support us through the journey, which increased our chances of success. So those are some of the key factors when it comes to people.
Yeah, a lot of it all down to relationships. Thank you, Leo. Brian, your thoughts on that, about maximising those chances of success?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is, again, Leo raises some good points, which is when you're dealing with any sort of change from a business operational standpoint, is it's identify who your stakeholders are, right? At the end of the day, who is going to be interacting with all these change systems, whether it's a data management tool, whether it's a cloud tool, cybersecurity, then identify, again, who are your key stakeholders that are listening or going to receive this service to a degree. So that's the first role of it. And then from there, it's a coordination story, where it's how are you making sure all these stakeholders are effectively communicating with one another to make sure that you're hitting these agendas. We talk about digital transformation in a lot of ways, and you look up a definition, it'll tell you it's an ongoing and continuous process. And this is maybe a spicy take will come later, I actually don't necessarily know if I subscribe to that. But I do know, even if you view it as always ongoing, or if it's something that has a defined end or beginning of adoption to an end point, that means you still have to define what are your benchmarks, what are your clear targets. And so for a lot of businesses at first, when cybersecurity, which is a very older form of digital transformation, when you think about security protocols, they were starting to implement standards the second that came out. And over the years, as new threats have emerged, new landscapes on the enterprise side, it's getting those stakeholders to coordinate and mature that strategy. We've been seeing that since 2008, really, with the cloud, the launch of the cloud. Again, it's getting the stakeholders involved and figuring out, maybe it's not just one cloud solution that works for us, right? We think about Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, all these other solutions that offer these ecosystems and environments. When companies first adopted them, it was simply we need to adopt a strategy right now. So they kind of got together and were like, okay, we'll pick one, AWS or Azure. Over time, companies realized we actually need expertise on board and also a fundamental understanding of our business and our customers to then develop a more mature cloud strategy. So if you fast forward to today, from initial adoption, about 87% of medium to large businesses have what's called a multi-cloud strategy, right? Where they're operating with an Azure and an AWS ecosystem, because they've gotten familiarity with the tools and recognize, my talent acquisition portal works better on an AWS function than my payroll, which works better in Azure, for example, for the environment. How do we coordinate and leverage that data? That requires stakeholders and internal strategy teams. And I think that's something that you've seen in the private sector, and you even see it in the public side and the military side that I've come from in the past, which is there was an office that was charged with overseeing digital transformation. And then our clients were internal offices. The one I worked with was Cyberspace Forces, but we had one that focused on acquisition pipelines for technologies. Very different offices, but at the end of the day, have very interesting alignment in terms of they share the same budget. They share the same goals in terms of getting to align with protocols between Department of Homeland Security and Department of Defense. So you need someone in a group or an office in this case to coordinate and steward that transformation forward with aligned goals in the start of it.
One thing I want to move on to next is picking up on something you said a moment ago, Leo, about your journey. I want to stay with that if I can. How important is you view a digital transformation as a journey? It isn't a silver bullet, a one stop, one hit, we've now changed and we're done for the next 5 years. How important is that journey continues? You're always looking to improve and evaluate your progress. How vital do you think that is, Leo?
That's very vital for any organization who wants to be on the top. And in today's terms, in order to exist and be competitive, you need to be continuously transforming. Say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we haven't been talking about LLMs and conversational interfaces and ChatGPT type of scenarios, right? But recently, I believe from 2025, the Gartner's top quadrant is agentic AI. That came in and took the top spot as well. So like everybody else, we are also working on a number of initiatives which include generative AI. So throughout our company, our employees are having access to Microsoft Copilot. About 2 weeks ago, I was pushing our project management teams to learn advanced prompt engineering. So about 2 decades ago, when Google came, everybody became a Googler. But in the future, everybody will be prompt engineers, is what I see. So we continue to transform, and one of our initiatives is a citizen developer initiative where we would like ordinary workers who are using obviously computer company machine to use technologies like Microsoft Power Platform and try and do their own automation and improve the productivity. And some of those proof of concepts we have transformed into production grade solutions. So it's important that it is a journey and we continuously evolve as opposed to a final destination.
Absolutely. Brian, same question to you.
Yeah, I guess quickly, I want to make sure, and it depends on who's viewing. When we're talking about AI agents or agentic economy, I do think it's important. What does that actually look like and define it? I found people hear the buzzword, but they don't get the definition sometimes. And I think one of the important things is, right, this idea is we live in an app economy currently where you move data app to app to app. Well, I was trying to print something the other day and I had to go through 5 security authentication apps, which is great. It keeps my data secure, which is important, but that's a lot of friction. That's a lot of time wasted. An AI agent is effectively an AI software tool, oftentimes revolving around generative AI. How can it work as a software tool to allow minimal to zero human oversight to move that data seamlessly for you? So instead of having to go app to app, we're talking about an agentic economy where it's working alongside you, almost like a cobot or a coworker, to really move that data forward. And I think this leads into ultimately the kind of this larger question, which we are continuously changing. We're continuously adopting new technologies. We're continuously bringing on new things, and generative AI and AI in general is going to push that forward. But I do think, and here's the spicy take that I've been saying on, is I don't necessarily know if digital transformation is the correct word really anymore to say what we're doing. I think we're in an era of what we would call digital coexistence. I think this idea of transformation makes it seem like we're reacting to technology change when we really, if you look at AI, it's following the cloud adoption cycle just at a faster scale, which is early adoption and then mature and figure out with expertise, how do you incorporate these processes? But if you look at the world as it stands now, we do remote work, or I should say hybrid work, hybrid education. We shop online and are on an e-commerce idea. we're really at parity between our digital identities and our physical identities. We're doing this right now by doing a virtual webinar. We're living in the digital world while I physically sit here in Arlington, Virginia. So at the end of the day, it's about coexisting with technology so that's better at collaborating, cooperating, co-working with you. And I think that might be the better encapsulation of how do we get businesses, and still sometimes are apprehensive, to be more proactive in their strategy around how do we evolve and adopt new technology. Digital transformation, I mean, and maybe this is having worked on the government side was sometimes a scarier term. I think coexistence is more accurate to where we're living now, where these are table stake technologies that if you want to be a business that succeeds, you must have some degree of security, scalability, and simulation from cyber, cloud, AI, and beyond.
Well, I can't promise I can get the ticker changed at the bottom, but this is now forever known as the Digital Coexistence Panel. I think it's probably more relevant, so thank you for that, Brian. I was going to ask a question on workforce now, but coming in questions from the audience, this one's from JT. This is a considerably better question than the one I was about to ask, so I'm going to be led by the audience here and ask this question instead, because I'll class under the chicken and egg category, but I will put it to both of you. JT asks, should firms upskill existing employees to retain expertise and experience, or hire AI-savvy young employees who then need job training? How do you solve that dilemma? Leo, apologies, I'm coming to you first on that one.
Yeah, so I guess every company needs to get the right balance of hiring new employees and fitting them in the right place. And I believe fusion teams, which are cross-functional, as well as having a mix of young and old and middle-aged talent, would probably give you the best mix and best performance when it comes to moving forward is what I think. So your existing employees, for example, ChatGPT, those technologies are pretty new in getting heavily adopted. So everybody probably needs to get trained on them. But then when it comes to new talent, there's obviously niche areas where they're good at, right? A lot of graduates coming out of technology universities, they already know Python, they already know data science, so they can, with those right skill set, they can just walk into maybe the data science department. While they lack the business related exposure, getting those fusion teams with the right mix of business experts as well as the tech experts will create that holistic team is what I see.
Keeping that balance is absolutely crucial. Brian, if we come to you on that one, I know it's a chicken and egg question. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I strongly agree with Leo. I think the balance is the right approach. And I think that's obviously usually just good business sense, right? You want a balanced perspective on any challenge you're coming with because you want to avoid groupthink. You want to avoid going into one area. So I think to take it just one more step further, it's, well, how do you get your existing staff to showcase their innovative abilities or their ability to upscale their skill set? Oftentimes, I was talking about this on stage actually last week in New York, and one of the best examples I heard was in the radio business. Local stations would put out a competition of, who has the most innovative idea for an ad campaign or marketing, and you create a not a cutthroat competitive environment, but a race to the top of the best ideas that come through and really empower your existing employees to showcase some of their potential on that front. So certainly that's how you leverage the kind of the chicken, I guess in this case, let's call it the chicken, where it's your existing employee staff. So the egg is then that new younger talent that's coming up. And that's certainly where you have to take foster that. And I'll go on personal experience. I came into the job market at the tail end of the 2008 recession. And a lot of it was I was just waiting for companies, give me a chance, like just take a chance on me. And I think a lot of companies have found success with the young talent there, with what new skills they have. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of that AI focus coming out of Gen Z and then eventually Gen Alpha, especially when you have people like Mark Cuban saying, if I could go back in time and learn one skill to become a millionaire immediately, it would be I would learn AI and go to businesses each day and say, here's how you use this software skill. So I think that's the thing to recognize, is that even if they require job training and to learn the culture experiences, you always lean into your team's strengths. So do that with your young employees and then incentivize that out of your existing employees.
And where I'm looking to close things on this discussion is future trends. Leo, I'll come to you first again on this. What do you see as the next big trend in digital transformation within businesses? What do you think that will be?
So what I see the next big trend when it comes to digital transformation is definitely Gen AI. One of them is Gen AI, as well as digital twins, which will be the next factor of transformation. For example, if we take Gen AI, it will cut across verticals and it will cut across horizontals. So, for example, if you take the NVIDIA CEO and what he says about the workforce, most of everybody's work, maybe 20%, maybe 50% in certain cases, will get replaced by Gen AI. And it'll be that 50 or 80% that Gen AI could not do. The human piece is what we will need to focus on. So it will transform jobs as we speak, the entire industries altogether with this technology.
Thank you, Leo. Brian, your thoughts on future trends?
Yeah, of course. I love this. I'm CTA's resident futurist, so I have to try to map out what's next. So I'll give you the 2020s, and I'll even give a preview, I think, the 2030s too. So the 2020s, certainly artificial intelligence. Generative AI will play a role. There is a lot of functionality in terms of drug discovery and some of its rapid ability to model, but large language models are not always going to be the solution. There are other pathways like symbolic AI and other frameworks that will be important. 2020s will be defined how companies bring in artificial intelligence. Gen AI is a path. Leo mentioned digital twins, which, if you're not familiar, is the virtualization of a physical object into the digital world. What you are doing by having a digital twin is you are cutting down your research and development time for the physical world and able to simulate, using AI, a bunch of different scenarios. That's already being used today. Red Bull F1 Racing has been using Siemens's digital twin for years, and they have a championship winning car. Dassault has been using it to save lives. They use a digital twin of the human heart to pioneer pediatric surgery for the heart. And then finally, I'm really excited at CES 2025 this year. Jensen Huang is keynoting from NVIDIA, and they've had the Earth 2, which helps simulate for climate change and other sort of weather pattern predictions. It really is about cost savings. But there's other AI tools that are going to be focused outside of Gen AI. There's a company, Nutrix, out of Switzerland, that's doing a job with AI-based solutions that have already reduced lead time and development time out of OEMs in the industrial field by 75%. So we're talking about efficiency gains there. That's the 2020s. All of this AI innovation that's going on the board is unlocking the 2030s, which will be defined as the quantum decade. So companies are going to have to grapple with a few things. One, computer encryption will be much more difficult if a quantum computer can break through modern encryption protocols. Luckily, the National Institute of Standards and Technology have already released a guidance on what post-quantum cryptography looks like for security. That will also have massive implications in terms of a company's ability to ideate and generate data for different ideas when you've already leveled up the computational background it is in. So 2020s, it's how does enterprise and industrial AI bring that ROI in terms of efficiency, and how do companies grapple with that? First part, get your data right, because data is the language of AI. 2030s, it's quantum. That's the decade where we're going to see a lot of foundational change, not just for industries, but societally as well.
Absolutely. Well, we will look to wrap things up there. Leo, thank you so much for sharing your story over at Bimbo Bakers USA about your digital transformation. Really enjoyed your insights. And Brian, thank you for your overview as well. And I will say, I feel like I should have introduced your jacket separately. It's absolutely outstanding. It is jacket of the day. Leo, nothing personal, but I'm sure you'll agree that is a showstopper if ever I saw one. Thank you so much for you both for joining us here at Tech and AI Live New York.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
A pleasure.